Most DNS queries never actually happen. 40 to 60% are answered instantly inside your own browser cache. Most of the rest never leave your ISP. And yet, behind the scenes, a system designed in the 1980s is still quietly coordinating trillions of lookups per day, translating names into IP addresses in milliseconds. You use it every time you open a tab. You probably haven't thought about how it actually works. DNS exists because humans are bad at remembering numbers. Computers don't care about google.com, they care about IP addresses. But expecting humans to memorize something like 142.250.74.14 for every site? Not happening. The original solution was a file, literally. A single global text file called HOSTS.TXT. Every machine downloaded it. Every hostname was listed inside. If you wanted to add a new server, you emailed Stanford and they updated the file. This worked until it didn't. The file grew too large, updates lagged behind reality, conflicts appeared, and worst of all, one central authority controlled everything. So, DNS replaced it with one idea: delegation. Instead of one file, break the internet into zones. Let different organizations control different parts and stitch it all together into a distributed system. That system still powers the internet today. Type www.example.com into your browser. Here's what actually happens. First, the browser checks its own cache. If it already knows the IP, you're done. No network call. If not, the request goes to the OS stop resolver, your system's built-in DNS client. It checks its own cache. Still nothing. Now, the OS forwards the request to a recursive resolver, usually your ISP's DNS, or something like 8.8.8.8 or 1.1.1.1. This is where the real work starts. The recursive resolver asks a root nameserver, who handles .com? The root doesn't know the final answer. It returns a referral. Ask these .com servers. Next, the resolver asks a TLD nameserver, who handles example.com. The TLD responds with NS records, the authoritative servers for that domain. And if those servers live inside the domain itself, it includes glue records, their IPs, to avoid a circular lookup. Now, the resolver asks the authoritative nameserver, what is the A record for www.example.com? This server is the source of truth. It returns the IP. The resolver caches the result, passes it back to your OS, which caches it again, and finally hands it to the browser. Only now can the browser actually open a TCP connection. All of that typically happens in under 100 milliseconds, and most of the time it doesn't happen at all, because of caching. DNS is fast because it cheats. Caching happens everywhere. Your browser caches, your OS caches, your router might cache, and the recursive resolver caches results for millions of users. That's why most queries never reach authoritative servers. The key to this is TTL, time to live. Every DNS record comes with a timer. It tells caches how long they can reuse the answer before asking again. Short TTL, faster updates, more load. Long TTL, better performance, slower changes. This is also why DNS propagation isn't real. When you change a record, it's live immediately on the authoritative server. What you're waiting for is caches to expire. Nothing is being propagated. Even failures get cached. If a domain doesn't exist, that annex domain response is cached too. That's why a newly created subdomain can look broken for minutes. DNS is less like a live system and more like a layered set of temporary memories. DNS isn't just IP lookups. You'll touch a handful of record types constantly. A records map a domain to an IPv4 address. 4 times 8 does the same for IPv6. CNAME creates an alias, pointing one domain to another, common for CDNs and platforms. MX records route email. They tell the world where to send your domain's email. NS records define which servers are authoritative for your domain. And then there's text records, the Swiss Army knife. They store arbitrary data, domain verification, SSL challenges, and critically, email security. SPF, DKIM, and DMARC all live in TXT records. Together, they decide whether your emails land in inboxes or spam. If DNS breaks, email breaks. Websites break, everything breaks. DNS was not designed to be secure. Originally, it trusted every response. That led to attacks like cache poisoning, injecting fake records into resolvers. The Kaminsky attack in 2008 proved how easy this was. The fix? DNSSEC. DNSSEC adds cryptographic signatures. It lets resolvers verify that a response is authentic and hasn't been tampered with. But it doesn't encrypt anything. For privacy, you need DOH or DOT, DNS over HTTPS or TLS. These encrypt the query itself, hiding it from networks in between. So, DNSSEC is integrity, DOH or DOT is confidentiality. Different problems, different solutions. And then there are attacks like DNS amplification, turning small queries into massive responses to overwhelm victims. DNS is critical infrastructure and a very attractive target. DNS today is not just a lookup system, it's a routing control plane. Cloud providers use DNS for traffic shaping. You can route users based on geography, latency, or health checks. Shift 10% of traffic to a new cluster. Fail over instantly when a region goes down. In Kubernetes, DNS is service discovery. Every service gets a DNS name. IPs are ephemeral. DNS is the stable layer. Even your home network can use DNS as a filter. Tools like Pi-hole block ads by simply resolving domains to 0.0.0.0. DNS is no longer just a phone book. It's infrastructure logic. There's a reason engineers say it's always DNS. In 2016, a DDoS attack on DIN, powered by hacked IoT devices, took down Twitter, Netflix, Reddit, and more. In 2021, Facebook went offline globally. Not because of DNS itself, but because a BGP misconfiguration caused their DNS servers to disappear from the internet entirely. Recursive resolvers everywhere returned errors. Facebook effectively vanished. And in 2025, a misconfiguration at Cloudflare withdrew routes for 1.1.1.1. Anyone using it lost DNS completely for over an hour. These weren't hacks, they were configuration mistakes. DNS doesn't fail often, but when it does, everything above it collapses. DNS feels simple on the surface. Type a name, get an IP, but underneath it's a globally distributed system, layered with caches, stitched together by delegation, and hardened after decades of failures. Most of the time, you never notice it, until you do. And when something breaks, it's probably DNS. If you want to understand the internet, start here. And if you want to go deeper, the next layer gets even more interesting.